Yeah, you better. Cause you want this, I want this. Everybody in this, what should have it? Stop illusions, it's in your hands. Show yourself, reveal it to them. Yeah, you better. Take the time to recognize it. You won't leave me even if you try it. You're the artist, I'm the mess, and happily be found the new in your hands.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Unlimited with Elisabeth Carson. Today, you guys, I am talking about parenting, and how to parent your children and raise conscious kids because, guys, kids are our future. They are our future. Okay. So it's super important, super important. And just a disclaimer out there. I am not a licensed anything. This is just literally, I want to pour into you guys from my own experience in raising my 12-year-olds, pretty much all by myself, my whole life. We had lots of support from family, but he's been with me, like pretty much forever. So yes, I have a lot of experience with this. Yeah, I mean, guys, kids are our future, and we need to make sure that we protect them in the greatest way, because we have gotten parenting wrong for a long time, which is why I feel like we as adults are a little bit dysregulated, and we are, we could be better. We could be way better with each other, but I don't think that, our parents really knew how important it was to really let children express themselves as they are. I mean, back in the day when I was a kid, it was more like sit down, shut up, and listen to what they tell you. Don't talk back. Just, it's like respect your elders. Don't even just sit there, do what you're told, and just quiet. So, guys, it's important for us to learn how to consciously parent our children, because I really feel like these days there's so much trauma, there's so much dysregulation, there's so much, stuck people, autoimmune disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia. And I feel like it's because mind-body connection, guys, it all relates. Mind-body connection. Like, if you're stuffed up with emotion because you were told to sit down, shut up, and listen and do what you're told, then that manifests inside of the body as dis-ease, and then you'll end up getting disease. So it's important, guys. This is important. So, I wasn't always conscious when my son was here. Okay. I didn't wake up until my son was probably about 2 or 3. So, there was a lot of trauma at the beginning of his life. And I'm not even saying that there wasn't like throughout, because I'm human. I'm not perfect. I try to be perfect, but I am far from it. And everybody has breaking points. Everybody snaps, things happen. And, unfortunately, life is like this. We end up taking out our stress, our emotions, our word vomits onto people that are closest to us. And that's sad, but it's just the truth. Think about it. I mean, you're not going to go let off all your stress on a stranger on the street. I mean, you might, but it's unlikely. It's unlikely. You're more likely to come home and just be popping off at your family, or popping off at your significant other, or popping off at your kids. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's important to try to stay regulated, especially with these little ones, because, we're shaping our future through them. We are shaping our future. So, I it was just really traumatic for my son. He has core wounds because, like I said, I didn't really understand. I didn't know how to parent. And guys, I mean, whoever watched the first episode of my podcast, you already know I conceived my son when we were on the run. I was on the run with my baby daddy. The feds, I had just got out of jail. He had just got out of jail. And we found out that he was, they were looking for him. So we went on the run. We went on the run. I remember the night that I got pregnant. So think about it. If pregnancy, which I'm going to do another podcast on pregnancy and how important it is to honor the mother and respect the womb while mothers are pregnant. It's so freaking important. But I was completely stressed out. Think about it. If we're on the run and I'm pregnant, that's just it's not a great way to start things. It's not really great. It's not good at all, actually. So, throughout the pregnancy, we were dealing with all of that. Okay. It was a whole thingy. And it was very, very stressful, very stressful. And to be honest, for most of the time that I was pregnant, he was on house arrest. So I was the one that was working. I was the one that was going out getting the money. I was the one that was, the breadwinner, paying the bills and trying to hold the household together because honestly, he couldn't really do anything. House arrest. So I was working all the way until literally probably a week or two before I had my son. And I was working at a strip club as a hostess. Funny story, if you guys want to hear it. Don't think I'm toxic. I used to be toxic. Just like a lot of us, but I'm not anymore. So I'm going to be honest. So I used to help make the bar more money by taking water shots, right? I mean, I was pregnant. So I was sitting behind the desk and they couldn't see my stomach. So I would take these water shots and then I would just act drunk, right? So I would get tips and I would help the bar make more money. And so I was, this one night, I was getting drunk by this guy and I was taking like 10 water shots. I was like, throwing them back. And I was like, acting drunk. And at the end of the night, the lights came on and I didn't know he was still there. And I had sat up and I started cleaning my area. And he's like, oh my God. He was like, oh my God, you're pregnant. Guys, I was big. I was like, oh, oops. Yeah, no, I'm totally fine. Caught me. Anyways, just a little story. I used to be crazy. I was crazy as hell. Okay. I was crazy as hell. But yeah, I know I wasn't drinking real shots though. They were water shots, but that was funny. That was crazy. But guys, I mean, just to tell you guys, like I was literally pregnant inside of a club, not the best non-toxic place to, have your son in your stomach. So it wasn't a great start for him. And then, he was born and oh my God, this is one of the saddest moments of my life, to be honest. Like, I really think it's probably probably the top saddest moment of my life. Because, my son's father had to turn himself in after my son turned 3 months old. So that was horrible. And just to think of my son, right? I mean, it is just so necessary for parents to really, really just take care of their babies at that baby stage. Guys, I relived my birth. Okay. I relived it. I felt the emotion of being pulled away from my mother and not being embraced. And I remember all I wanted was a motherly embrace around me all the time. So, this is what regulates our kids' nervous systems at baby age. So if you don't have both parents or if your parents are going through stress, I mean, it's not great for the child. So, I remember this like it was yesterday. We had to drive to turn him in Pennsylvania. And it was so sad because I had my son in his stroller. Well, actually, he was on his dad's, he was like on his shoulders and walked into the jail. And I had to take my son and watch my son's dad get taken away in cuffs with a 3-month-old. It was a lot. That shattered me. I was not okay for a long time. It was really, it was a lot for me. So, I was not in the best mind state. I was not in the best mental health. I was incredibly stressed out. So, that kind of relays over to your parenting skills. Plus, I was all by myself. So I had to work So my son was going to daycare at a very young age. I was all by myself, guys. I needed to work. I needed to go to school. I needed to try to get my life together for him. For him. So he was at daycare starting at like 4 months old. And I remember I had so many friends of mine. They were like, "You're so awful. How could you leave your 4 month old at the..." Some people don't have a choice. Some people don't have a choice. And I didn't have a choice at that time. That's what I needed to do to be able to support us. So, abandonment. My son has abandonment issues because of that stuff, you know? And this is before he can consciously even remember, because I woke up before he can consciously remember things. So he remembers me being around. But those stages of him at such a young age, he was not with me. He was not with me, guys. And this wires your kids. It wires them. I mean, I was thinking at the time that I was doing all of this for him, And, I see now that I probably could have done something a little bit different with him. And I probably could have spent more time with him. I probably could have put off school and spent more time, but I was thinking that I was doing all of this for him. I'm hustling for him. I'm going to make sure I get a degree and get a good job for him and all these things. But honestly, it's not about the doing. It's about the spending time. It's about the presence. Because, guys, from womb to 7, a child's brain operates in theta. Okay. This is the same frequency as when you get hypnotized. So your subconscious mind is being programmed. This makes the children highly impressionable, okay, to emotional energy, to behavior, and to language around them. They're literally sucking up their personality for the rest of their life at this point. Their brain is in theta. When we put our brains in theta at this adult age, we are able to reprogram our subconscious minds. Okay. So that's what the kids are walking around in when they're 0 to 7. That's why now when I see little children outside running around, or I see babies, it's like I fix my energy. Number one, if I'm having bad energy that day, I button myself up, I fix it. And I'm always putting a smile on my face around those kids, even if they're being bad, even if they're being annoying, even if they're being whatever they are. Because, guys, they're just literally reacting to their environment. You never really know what's going on. And honestly, yes, there are kids that have more behavioral problems when they're younger, but it's not them. It's not their fault. They're getting programmed. They are getting programmed. So if you walk past the kid and give them a snarl or dirty look, or you might even like sit your ass down, that stamps them for the rest of their life. You're affecting the children for the rest of their life. So make sure that y'all are doing good by these children, even if you're just in a restaurant. You know what I'm saying? It's like we are programming these kids for the rest of their life when they're young. The brain is still developing all of its neural pathways, all of them. And this defines their belief about love and safety and how the world is going to treat them. And it teaches them about self. So this is really, really important, really important. And according to Harvard, children build neural architecture based on consistent co-regulation with their caregivers, meaning they literally wire their sense of identity and safety through the way that you parent them. And what wires together, guys. So if your child is constantly living in a state of stress and yelling and unpredictability and just negativity, then their amygdala becomes overactive. Okay. And this is the fear center of the brain. They've actually done studies nowadays that the amygdala, sometimes with children with tons of trauma, the amygdala is oversized inside of their brain. They've also done studies to show that chronic cortisol, which is the stress hormone, when it's rushing through the brain, this shrinks the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is responsible for memory, emotional regulation. Okay. I feel like my hippocampus is a little bit jacked up because, to be honest, I don't remember a lot of my life. Like my memory is not the greatest. It really isn't. That's why I have to read books like 85 times to really suck up the information. Because I really have to study things. Like I really have to try to remember. And I honestly, I don't remember my childhood, a lot of it. And I really think that has to do because my hippocampus is a little bit jacked up because I was really stressed out as a little kid. Very, very stressed out. So guys, I mean, also, this constant cortisol, constant stress, it impairs the prefrontal cortex, which this is your logical thinking mind. This is how you regulate your emotions. This is how empathy lives right here. So it impairs that. And it leads to heightened reactivity, poor emotional regulation, and difficulty with relationships, self-esteem, decision-making. Guys, they recently did a study that found that children their parents are not in a great mental state, right? They don't have great mental health. Those children are 4 times more likely to have emotional problems and physical problems when they grow older. Let me say that again. If you're stressed and you're not in a great mental space for your child, they are 4 times more likely to have physical problems and emotional problems growing up. This is not good. And you know what, guys? This is a whole nother podcast, but I want to touch on something. As parents, and especially single mothers, okay, or single fathers, like we put a lot of stress on ourselves. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves we got to get it done. We have to do this. We don't have time for ourselves, right? We don't have time for ourselves. So therefore, we're stressed out, and our stress is being thrown onto our kids. And it's like, if we were to take some time for ourselves, because I feel like that's just a story we tell ourselves. We have to do this. We don't have time for this. We got to get the babies to do. We got to get the babies to school on time. We got to feed the babies the right food. It's like all of these things that go through our heads, and it prevents us from taking care of ourselves. And so in turn, we're stressed out. We're burnt out. We're no good emotionally for our kids. So it's like, guys, if we were to learn, the more we regulate ourselves, the more that we can help ourselves feel better and help ourselves be better, which means take time for yourself. Take a moment, take a moment, take a breather, because a lot of us have this story. We don't have time for that. We have to make sure that it's our responsibility. It's But we need to understand that our mental health is in direct correlation with our kids' future. Our mental health is. So, and it's not just emotionally. They will physically get affected. 4 times more likely if our mental health is not right. It's not right. They've also found that kids with a ton of trauma, it alters the brain structure and the corpus callosum. That's the part of the brain that connects both hemispheres of the brain. So now their communication throughout life is not as optimal because emotional trauma. Okay. So this is so important, guys. It's so important for us to regulate ourselves. However we do that. I mean, for me, I had to dive into shadow work. I had to dive into emotional work so I could regulate my nervous system because I was such in fight or flight. I mean, think about it. I was a single mother, baby daddy in prison, just trying to make it out here by myself. Like, I'm used to the streets and hustling, and I'm thinking like, I gave it up. I gave the streets up when I got pregnant because I'm like, I cannot go to jail. If I go to jail, my son's going to foster care, and that's something I will not allow. So I even started wearing my seatbelt. I'm like, I'm not about to get in trouble anymore. And for anyone that has ever hustled in the streets, you already know it's like a little weird phase that you go through. You think that you can't make it because, I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to make that much money. If I do this, I'm never going to make that much money. I mean, it was a weird place for me. It was very strange. So I literally had to figure myself out during this whole time. And this is really when I started to dive into shadow work, guys, because I could see and know that I was toxic. I mean, I was so reactive to my poor baby. I was so reactive because, when I was a kid, my dad used to scream at me. So that was my toxic pattern that I picked up from him. And I used to scream at my kid. And I saw it, I started to realize what I was doing. And I'm like, you know what? I need to figure out how to stop this. And so I did. I started doing healing work, shadow work. I started regulating my nervous system. I dove into spirituality. I started to calm the F down because the moment I chose that I needed to stop parenting from fear and start parenting from presence. Presence, guys. Presence. That is all your child wants at the end of the day, is your presence, your attention. And so many of us are so busy. We don't have the attention. And I'm sorry, kids can be a little overwhelming. It's like, mom, can I have this? And then, you got those funny video memes of kids like, Mom, guess what my dream was about, Mom? My dream was, and then you're just sitting there like, get it out. Hurry up and get it out. But you know what? I mean, this is our babies, guys, but they need our presence. Like it's easy for us to clock out at those times, but they feel this, guys. Kids feel this stuff within their bodies. They do. So it's not about the toys. It's not about the experiences. It's about the presence with them. It's presence that they need. So trauma, it doesn't just affect the child emotionally, okay? Trauma affects children. It affects their gene expression. You're literally turning off and on epigenetic markers. You're turning them on or you're turning them off. So abandonment, yelling, emotional neglect alter the expression of genes. And this is, tied to emotional regulation and immune function. Important, super important. We're wiring our kids. But luckily, guys, neuroplasticity is a thing. Thank goodness it's a thing because my son has a great life, okay? My son and I have a great relationship. He has a great life, but we went through a lot together. Me and him. And we've done a lot of healing together. And thank goodness for that neuroplasticity because it was not always peaches and cream. It was not always butterflies and freaking unicorns, okay? It used to be pretty toxic in my household. So, guys, I mean, I just wanted to really, really, really express how important it is to regulate ourselves and our emotions around our kids because we're literally wiring not only the way they think, we're wiring the way they feel, we're wiring the way their physical body works for the rest of their life. We're wiring their genes, the expression of their genes. I mean, it is important for us to regulate. So, some tips. Like I said, I got conscious raising my son, and I started really just spending present time with him. And then I just, I was getting into deep meditations about certain things that I felt like was good for him. And moms, we have that initial motherly understanding of how to parent. It's in us. It's innately in us. So how I was parenting my son was it was being downloaded to me, basically. And, one thing I learned is my parents, when they raised me, they would always lie to me to try to protect me because they were just trying to protect me. The world is scary, they were trying to protect me by not telling me the full truth about things. And what I realized is that I knew my parents were lying. I knew they were lying, and it was just very confusing. So I vowed to never lie to my son, never lie to him, no matter how harsh the truth may be, never lie to him, because honesty builds safety and it builds self-trust within the child. Okay. Children have mirror neurons, just like we have mirror neurons, which are a special group of brain cells that reflect emotional and energetic states of others. We have that too. Kids really have that. They really have that. So when you're lying to a child, even with good intentions, I mean, my parents had great intentions for me. The child's nervous system and brain detects that. and it creates cognitive dissonance within the child. Okay. And this leads to confusion and mistrust, anxiety within the kid. I mean, that was me. Literally, I was like not believing anything my parents ever told me. I had tons of anxiety when I was younger. I mean, it was a lot. So I vowed to myself and my son that I was always going to tell him the truth, even when it's hard, because this builds coherence and safety within the child's body. Okay. And oxytocin, which is the love hormone, builds through truth and connection. Okay. Truth and connection. Very, very important. Very important. Now, another thing that I would help my son do, because I mean, I started to study emotions. I started to study how the brain, emotions can take over the body. And I really, really dove into how important it is to try to help your children regulate their emotions, because I never had that when I was a kid. So I never got taught to regulate my emotions. So I would use drugs. I would use parties. I would use sneaking out at night to regulate myself. Okay. Everything toxic, because I didn't know how to regulate my emotions. So one thing I used to do with my son when he was very, very young is I used to try to point out his emotion, right? When he was upset, okay, you're feeling whatever it is right now. I see you're feeling very angry right now. That's okay. That's okay that you're feeling very angry. This helps separate the emotion from their identity, okay? Because you don't ever want to get mad at your kid for being mad, because now you're getting mad at their identity, their emotional identity. And so they're feeling abandoned and confused, and just, it teaches. So when you separate the emotion from their identity, it teaches them observation, and it also helps them regulate. So when my son would get angry, I would say, hey, why don't we call that emotion a name? Just call it a name. My son would call his anger Bob. I mean, I had a reel that went viral about this. My son would call his anger Bob. And just by naming that emotion, this helps the child move from their limbic system, which is their emotional brain, they're overreactive, right, to their prefrontal cortex, okay? Thinking brain. And this is actually called affect labeling. And I went over this in my 10 shadow work things that I went over. It helps us too. Affect labeling. So separate yourself from the emotion, and this automatically helps reduce the emotional intensity of the moment, okay? It reduces it. So they did a study in UCLA, and when participants actually labeled their emotions, their amygdala activity decreased and their frontal lobes increased. So it stopped the reactive brain, and it helps light up the thinking logic brain, okay? And guys, I had a couple, I'm not going to call them stupid, but I had a couple comments on the reel that went viral talking about, my son calls his anger Bob. They're like, oh, you're creating schizophrenia. Come on. Like, seriously? Do you know what causes schizophrenia? Like, massive amounts of crazy trauma causes schizophrenia, or it can be passed down. But you don't cause schizophrenia by separating your child from his anger so he can observe his anger instead of identifying with his anger. That's not a thing. You're not going to create schizophrenia by doing affect labeling with your kid. Not a thing, guys. Not a thing. And, my son and I have been doing this since he was very, very young. And I have the most incredible child. And I will talk about him in a second. But yes, he's incredible. Okay? Incredible. So I always keep my promises. I never lie. I help him process. I helped him to learn how to process his emotions. And it's really important, guys. Like, don't be the person that's like, yeah, I'm going to come to the game, and you don't show up. Or you're over promising and under delivering. Like, that really just builds a very unstable world. And it messes up their attachment styles. I know we all have heard of attachment theory, right? I mean, attachment theory was developed by Jim Bowlby. I think his name was Jim Bowlby. And this is, it's created by the way parents interact with their children at a very young age. Okay. So it's the way that the child bonds to the caregiver, and this forms their blueprint for how they will relate to themselves, to others, to the outer world for the rest of their life. Okay. The rest of their life. So when you're always keeping your promises, okay, when you're always emotionally available, when you're consistent, when you're attuned to your child, you're creating secure attachment. Secure attachment, which is so important for relationships, guys. It's so important for relationships. This builds a foundation of safety inside the nervous system, and it helps allow the brain to develop healthily, like more healthy impulse control, resilience, emotional regulation. You're helping your child develop properly when you're available for them, present. Okay. And a secure attachment style is linked to higher self-worth and confidence, greater empathy, better social skills, and stronger cognitive flexibility. And you can learn more because you're able to kind of, you're flexible. You're not stiff and stuck. Okay. You're not stiff and stuck. On the other hand, insecure attachment, which, I have a lot of insecure attachment that I've healed over the years. I mean, I was anxious attachment style and avoidant. Okay. I had both sides of the spectrum all within me because of all the trauma and craziness. And that's not good, guys, because in relationships, I mean, you could be narcissistic or you could be codependent. I mean, you're just, your attachment is not healthy. It's not healthy. So this is formed through inconsistency, emotional unavailability, yelling, screaming, neglect. This is what causes insecure attachment style, guys. And attachment style is so important. It's so important because you're causing your child's nervous system to dysregulate, and they're feeling unsafe in their body. And now they're internalizing all of that fear, all of that shame, because unlike us, children don't really know how to express. They don't have all the words yet. They're not fully developed in the brain. I mean, guys' brains don't fully develop until they're about 28 years old, women's until they're 25. So their brains are not our brains. We can't expect them to understand and know things like how we understand and know things. It's impossible. So, like I said, I was a little bit toxic at the beginning of my son's life. Lots of yelling, lots of just stress, lots of stress. But over time, okay, guys, over time, you can help them build a secure attachment style because of neuroplasticity. Okay. So once you can recognize maybe you're not doing so well in one area, you can start to try to get conscious in that area and then get better at what you're doing because you can change them. You can help them to develop, a good attachment style, a secure attachment style. Every time that you keep your word, you're building and you're reinforcing that loop of safety within them because now they can trust you. They can lean on you. They know you'll be there when you say that you're going to be there. And predictability builds the prefrontal cortex. Okay. This helps children make better decisions. It helps them manage impulses and regulate their emotions. Prefrontal cortex development is everything, guys. Everything. I mean, even one instance of you breaking trust with your child can register as a huge threat within their system. And it can lead to, dysfunctional feelings of not being safe. So try to stay consistent with your kids. It's so, so, so important. So important, guys. And, I have been doing tons of research into ancient days. Okay. Ancient days back in the day, Lemuria, because I find that their community was so respectable, so honorable. And I just want us to start to kind of pick up their ways of raising their children and respecting each other, and come kind of back to this community style of raising kids, guys, because that's how they were back in the day. Laamrians didn't see children as blank slates. Like, they didn't see them as little babies that don't know anything. Laamrians believed that children and babies were the closest thing to the other side. So they were already wise, already whole, and already encoded with all of this divine nature and energy, because they are the newest spirit souls to incarnate here, right? So they are closer to God, closer to source. They just crossed the veil. And so they still believed that they were pulsing with cosmic memory and spiritual understanding and wisdom. And so the role of parenting, it wasn't to shape the child. It was to basically protect the frequency of the child so that the child could walk their purpose. Okay. So it wasn't like, I'm teaching you how to be a person and I'm molding you. No, it was protecting their frequency, AKA making sure that they're emotionally regulated, making sure that you're present with them, making sure that their nervous systems are understanding trust and you know, things like this. You're protecting their frequency to have a level frequency to be able to really just walk their creative path that they were supposed to. So children back then, they were seen as teachers, almost like soul-led teachers, not students, teachers. And parenting was way more back then. It was way more. And it was more of an energetic responsibility rather than like a physical responsibility. I mean, this sacred trust helped children maintain the purity of their frequency. Just think about it, guys. Think about it. If back in the day, if we were really allowed to stay in our creative child play nature, right? And we weren't just getting traumatized every 5 seconds, traumatized, and we weren't being told who we're supposed to be, but yet we were being held and revered, and then able to express everything that we came here with. I mean, we would probably not be as jacked up as a culture, I don't think, because we would actually know who the F we were. You know, back then, there was no yelling, there was no spanking, there was no punishment for kids. Their discipline was way different than our discipline is these days. Their discipline came from mirroring the energy back to them, like mirroring, hey, this is how you're acting. And so they can see their self, you know, storytelling, emotional attunement is how they used to discipline their children. And if a child was dysregulated, the parent would shift their frequency first, because energy, not the behavior, was the root of the problem back then. It was the energy, because the children back then were not acting out of behavior. They weren't acting. Their frequency would just get a little off. And so the parent would mirror so their frequency could go back to being of God, you know, in creativity. So guys, way different back then, way different. I mean, the children weren't raised by a single mom, a single dad. They were raised by the entire community, the entire village. They had support from everywhere. They had emotional support, energetic support, spiritual support from many adults, many teachers, many mentors, healers, singers, farmers. All of these adults would help awaken the creativity and the gifts of the child. See, today it's like, I mean, especially when I was raised, do as I say. Do as I say. You don't have any opinions. Do as I say. Instead of supporting the child and helping them to understand their emotions and understand certain things. Let's help you feel through this moment in time. You know, let's help you feel through these harder moments. I mean, it's emotional suppression these days instead of emotional expression, right? I mean, think about it. When a kid has a tantrum, you know, what are we doing? We're get your ass up off the floor, get over here. Da, 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 da. I mean, we're not letting the child fully express even all of that stuff out of their system. We're suppressing that. We're trying to stop it in the moment. And you know what that does? Causes dis-ease within the system. Disease. It's obedience over understanding these days. Obedience over understanding. Guys, like, it was so bad. My parents, you know, I had a hard little childhood. I was one of those tantrum throwing kids. I mean, I understand why now. I understand why. My heart was broken the minute I came into this dimension because I didn't see my mother. I got taken right away. So I had a ton of anger, a ton of confusion. And then later found out that my mom was screaming and shrieking and just in pain and emotionally distraught, all jacked up. So as I'm coming out the womb, I'm thinking I'm getting yelled at, screamed at. And then I don't get regulated in that moment because I didn't see my mother. I didn't get placed on her chest. I didn't gaze into her eyes. So yeah, I was one of those kids, those annoying kids that would throw those tantrums. And you know what my parents would do? They would put me in my room and leave me there with the door closed and just let me tantrum it out. They were like, oh yeah, it was too much. So, you know, we just put you in the room and let you just kind of burn out. No wonder I had abandonment issues. They were doing the best that they could with what they knew how. I love my parents. I understand. They were not taught these type of things. This is not taught in school, guys. This type of information is not taught to us, so we don't know. All we're doing is getting passed down by generation and generation and generation, and this is how it's done. You know, they didn't know any better. But obviously, that's not a good thing if your child is having a tantrum and you're just leaving them to cry it out on their own. Not cool. You need to help your children understand these emotions, express these emotions, you know, help them feel through their emotions. Because guys, we as adults, we don't even know how to control our emotions. We don't even know how to control our own. And we expect our children to be able to? Come on. We are supposed to be the examples for them. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to be the examples for our kids. So that's why I'm saying our emotional stability and mental health is number freaking one in parenting 101 in my book, because you model what your kids will soon be. And just by your energy, kids are the most intuitive, guys, the most intuitive. I believe it. Laamrian culture, they literally just came from source. They just crossed the veil. They just got here. They are the closest ones to God, the closest ones to God. So we need to help them express themselves correctly, help regulate themselves correctly, you know, walk hand in hand with our kids and show and prove by the way that we behave, because really at the end of the day, that's how they'll behave. Now, guys, my son is 12, okay? My son is 12 going on 50. My son is an old soul, literally in every community that my son and I have been in, our old neighborhood, you know, the other old neighborhood, this community here, in school, I mean, at events, everyone's like, oh my God, your son is so polite. He's so well behaved. He's so da 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 da. I'm like, I know he is. And you know what, guys? I got off the phone with him right before I got on this live. I'm like, look, I'm about to, because he's visiting his grandparents right now. I'm like, look, I'm about to go live talking about parenting. I'm like, what is one thing that you love about my parenting that helps you to be a good person? Right? I asked him that. And he's like, well, this was so interesting. He said, well, Mom, you really let me do whatever I want. And I was like, And you guys, this is the truth. I really let my son do what he wants to do within reason. I mean, he's not crazy, so he's not going to be like, I'm going to take this knife and I'm going to take it outside and step. No, he's not like, my son is not like that. My son is like, I just want to play games. I just want to like be in my PJs all day and like sit on the couch. Or I want to go to a water park, or, you know, I mean, it's really normal kid things. But I don't ever parent my son in a way to make him fearful of ever coming to me for anything at all. Nothing at all. And so my son was like, yeah, I mean, you know, I can talk to you about anything. He's like, our talks really help. Guys, ever since I became conscious, I used to sit my son down and have these deep talks, especially when I'm feeling something's not regulated within him. You know, I wait till he calms down a little bit, and then I make sure to go visit him. And I spend that present time with him, looking directly into his eyes, like, how can I support you right now? What is going on? And then if I'm in the wrong, which a lot of the times I am, a lot of the times we are as parents, we're in the wrong. We snap about something. You know, I catch myself sometimes, just like unconsciously, I might snap, and because he's saying something, I'm busy. And I'm like, hold on. I'm like, oh my God, Gabe, I'm so sorry. That was not about you. My bad. Every time I make a mistake with a snapping or an inappropriate tone of voice, or just ignoring when I'm too busy, and he's trying to tell me something, you know, and I see myself. And if I'm in the wrong, guys, I never forget to apologize. And I'm talking apologize like directly to him, like, Gabe, I am so sorry. That was not about you. You know, like literally connecting in that present moment, so he can feel me, and he can feel my energy, and he can feel that my energy says, I'm sorry, not just my words. And this has helped him so much. He told me right before I got on here. He was like, Mom, our talks, I love our talks. And the crazy thing about it is my son started giving other people talks when he turned 9 years old. He would say, you know, to the guy, he would tell him, hey, I'm seeing that you're a little stressed. You look a little angry. I just want to make sure that you're not suppressing that. So let's go in the room and just talk it out for a little bit. I mean, the guy even announced that many times online, because he was so like, whoa, that was crazy. My son would take him into the room and be like, sup, are you making sure that you're not stuffing your anger? Because it's not good to do that. I mean, these are the things that I taught him to do, guys, at a young age. I'm like, look, Gabe, you know, Bob is back. I see that Bob is really just trying to take you over today. Is there any way that we can talk to Bob for a second and just tell Bob, maybe take a breath or something? And then if that wouldn't work, I would tell Gabe, like, hey, Gabe, go get that anger out. Get it out. Do whatever you have to do. Go scream in a pillow. Go beat up your bed. You know, go color, draw, listen to angry music, go play basketball. You know, I always stressed how important it was for him to get the emotion out. Because for me, I was so stuffed up. I was emotionally constipated. I literally was so stuffed up with so much emotion that my nervous system was so deeply in freeze that I did not feel until I turned 30 years old. I did not feel emotion until I turned 30 years old. That's a lot. So now I know how important it is to be able to express these things and not stuff, because you can only stuff so much until you stuff and you can't feel anything. And your nervous system just checks out and you go into freeze, and then you live there for years. That was me. Toxic. That's another reason why I don't remember half my life, because I was in freeze. I was disassociated for literally like all of it. All of it. So I make sure that I tell my son, express your emotions. And then also, you know, guys, as parents, we think that we're supposed to be all holier than thou, that our kids don't know anything, that they can't even tell us about ourselves because we're the parent. We're supposed to know what, we're the parents. We know better. Absolutely not sometimes. I learned so much from my kid, so much. And you have to understand, if you want to have a solid relationship with your child, you have to let them express themselves, even when you think it's wrong, even when you think it's bratty, even when you think it's ungrateful. I mean, many times my son has sat me down like, this, I didn't like this, and I don't like when you blah, 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 blah. And I'm like rolling my eyes to my cerebellum. I'm like, But I mean, he has to express himself. You have to let them express themselves without getting triggered. This is the key, without getting triggered. Because if you get triggered as they express themselves to you, then they'll be afraid to come back and do it again. And you want to make sure that you keep that open line of communication with your child. I told my kid, I was like, look, don't ever lie to me, because we can always work it out, no matter what it is. Because I want that open line of communication with him at all times. I want him, when he's at the high school parties getting drunk, I want him to call me, not drive home because he's so scared that I'm going to freak out that he's drunk. I want him to have so much trust in me that he's calling me when he needs something, not trying to hide. Guys, I was a crazy teen. Crazy. I got arrested for the first time when I was 13 years old. I started sneaking out when I was in second grade. I mean, I was all over the place. I was not, guys. Woohoo. No, but I didn't feel like I could talk to my parents about anything. Nothing. I was just going to get yelled at. I was just going to get talked down to. I was never going to call my parents about, nope. I'm doing whatever I can to not let them know what I was doing. And it was perfect. It was perfect. So my bedroom, right? My bedroom didn't have a screen in the window, and it had this little ledge of a roof. And then if you climbed over to the side of it, there was a little AC unit right there. So I was able to just climb down off my roof and leave at night. And this was when I was like 10 to whenever I moved out of my house, my parents' house. I was out all the time. All the time. I mean, I stole my brother's car when I was 13 years old. This is crazy. I stole his car when I was 13 years old. And I just used to like to joyride. And so I thought it would be a perfect night to joyride this one time when I was 13. And so I took his car and I rode around with my friend. And then as I'm driving back to my house, I look over to see if the lights were on, because I was scared that my parents' lights were on. And I was like, I hope that they're not awake. Let's make sure that everything is dark still. So I'm looking like this, driving, and boom, airbag. Airbag goes out. Do you know that I smashed the neighbor's car that was parked in front of their house? I totaled my brother's car. At 13, the freaking airbag was like, bop. I got knocked out. My girl got knocked out. Yo, those airbags are not a joke. I do remember that. That smacked the shit out of me. I was like, it was bad. It burns you. If you ever been hit by an airbag, that's not fun. But I think it probably saved my life, though. And do you know what I did? See, this is how disconnected I was from my parents. I was so scared. My face was all bloody. I was so scared that I ran up. I snuck into my brother's room. I was like, David, tell him that you did it. Tell him that you did it. Instead of probably going to the hospital and doing the right thing, I literally just tried to get out of trouble because I was so terrified I was going to get in trouble. Do you see? See what I'm saying? There's a different way to parent our children, guys. There's a different way. And you know what? I feel like anyone else that's adopted probably has had a lot of traumatic experiences as they were younger. They were probably a little crazier. I mean, I've heard many, many stories of adoptees that are weirdo kids that are all jacked up emotionally. That's why I'm still writing this book about adoption, because it affects you for the rest of your life so much so. That's not normal behavior. Being 13 years old, my son is about to be 13 years old in a couple months. This kid is an angel. Like, he calls me every day when he's not with me. Like, he's just, I can never imagine. I can't imagine. By the time that I was his age, I was smoking weed. I was drinking already. I was sneaking out. I was stealing cars. My son is about to be the age that I was doing all this stuff. I cannot believe it. If he were to do that right now, I don't even know how I would handle that. Oh my God. I would have a whole mental breakdown. I couldn't, no. But see, the thing is what my parents failed to realize, and RIP dad, and my mom is my rock, my best friend. My mother is my best freaking friend at this point. So that's all healed. But they just didn't know. But if I were them now, knowing what I know, I mean, instead of doing the things that they were doing to me, which is sending me to Scared Straight, I mean, they got me, they put me in boot camp so that I had a bunch of people, not a bunch, but two really big people come into my room in the middle of the night and take me and drop me off in the middle of the freaking woods in North Carolina. And I lived at Michigan at the time. So instead of outsourcing me, they should have tried to connect with me, be present with me, say, hey, I see that this behavior is not normal. Something must be out of whack here. So instead of outsourcing me, I wish they would have just talked to me, embraced me, loved on me, instead of sending me to boot camp and then boarding school because I was too much to handle. This created all types of trauma for me for the rest of my life that I've been unraveling since. That's what a lot of families do. They outsource their kids, the behavior problems of their children, because it's too much for them. Don't do that. Don't do that. Your kids need you. Your babies need you. They need you in a good mental state, and they need you to connect with them. Connection, presence, to find out what's really going on behind the hood, because it's not the behavior you need to worry about. It's the reason for the behavior that you need to worry about. And little did they know, I was getting sexually abused. I mean, I was adopted. I was, doing drugs. I was hanging out with the wrong people. I was getting molested it was just all bad. But instead of connecting with me and trying to figure all that out, they outsourced my behavior. That is the worst thing that we can do with our babies. And I think that has to do, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I didn't know, and I still don't know whether it's like a blood connection thing or, because I'm adopted. But I don't know. I don't know if that's just an adoptive thing, or I really don't know. Because for me, I would never send my son away. Never send him away. Never. My son is going to be right by my side. I don't care if I got to pull him out of school for a long time, and I have before. Because the world is the teacher, not school. School just smacks the creativity out of you and tells you to sit down, shut up, and then they give you drugs if you don't. But it's a war on drugs. Don't do drugs. But here goes some Adderall so you can sit down, shut up, and pay attention. Yo, this world is crazy, man. Backwards. The best thing that you guys can do for your children, presence, connection, honesty. realness, rawness. I mean, eventually my son is going to have to find out about me and how crazy I used to be. Eventually he's going to find all that stuff out. He's going to find out about his daddy. He's going to find out about us. But that's okay. That's okay. Because you know what? Yeah, I used to be crazy. Yeah, his dad used to be crazy, but we're not anymore. We got conscious. We got aware. And thank goodness for that, because we have been able to heal ourselves with him throughout his life. I mean, my son and his dad have the greatest. I get jealous. I get jealous of their connection. They're like this. My son's dad can read him like the back of his hand. He was talking to me yesterday and he was like, yeah, you know, I was seeing when the over pleasing, you know, the people pleasing thing started popping up in his life. You know, it was so obvious when he started to, you know, it was about the time when, you know, you quit smoking cigarettes around him. And I was like, what? And he's like, you don't see it? I'm like, huh? I mean, my son's dad is very brilliant. Like he can see things and he reads my son so well. And for me, it's a little harder because I really feel like my son is just a complete mirror of me. And it's been so interesting to try to therapy myself through that because honestly, I mean, my son is my greatest teacher and my biggest trigger. Not in a bad way that he triggers me, but he's able to because that emotional connection is so strong that any time that he even looks at me, like it breaks me. I'm like, ugh. So I have had to really kind of, you know, figure out life through him. That is my mirror. My mirror. Your kids are your mirrors for your own stuff. The greatest mirrors for you if you allow them to be. The greatest teachers for you if you allow them to be. For real. I remember when I was in high school, my best friend, my very, very, very best friend, I've had the same 3 best friends for like my whole life. I remember her mom, right? Her mom, I used to think she was so cool because her mom would let her go out and drink as long as she was back at a certain time. And I'd have to sneak out and drink. But her mom would be like, I know what you're doing. Just make sure that you get home safe and at this time. Or I know what you're doing. Make sure you do it in this couch, in this house. And I used to think that was so cool. But do you know that my best friend, she's like a all standing citizen. Like she's like a manager, like doing really good. Like it's like almost married. I mean, she's just the most brilliant, amazing human ever. I'm about to have her on my podcast. We're going to do a blast from the past. But her mom raised her in similar ways that I'm showing you guys and feeling like you should raise your children very honestly. Super connected, you know? There's no fear of if you make a mistake, I can't tell you, or if you do something wrong, I got to hide it. No, they had a really open connection. And she grew up not going to jail like I did. It's all about connection, guys. It's all about connection. And just don't let yourselves get so busy to where you cannot connect with your children. They're the most important thing to you, right? I mean, trust me, I am a businesswoman. Okay? I'm a businesswoman before anything else. I'm a businesswoman. Before I'm a teacher, before I'm a coach, before I'm any of the things, I am a businesswoman. I am incredibly busy. I've always been incredibly busy my whole son's life. I mean, I had 3 jobs and I was going to school at one point during my son's life. Not even lying. Literally, I was going to baking and pastry school, getting my pastry certificate. So I was having to be at school at 4:45 a.m. and it would be done at 9 a.m. And then I would stay at school and work as a sous chef for a couple hours. And then I would leave there and go to the country club and go be the assistant pastry chef. And then I would go to the bar to go bartend in the evening. I was never really around. I mean, I was always so busy. So busy. And I do regret those days. I could have spent more time with my kid. I could have seen the dimples in the hands. I could have had that baby, closer to me, embraced to me more. I always talk about it. I don't have regrets, but I think I do. I do have regrets about that time in my life because I wish I would have spent more time with him when he was small. But I thought that I needed to work because it's all on me. I got to pay the bills. I got to make sure that I get a good career, that I can take care of my son and provide him a good life. Do you guys know that it's not about providing your son or your daughter with anything except for you? You could live in a cardboard box with your child and your child would be happy as long as you were there and you were connecting with them, present with them. So yeah, I do regret that time in my life. We tell ourselves these stories. Oh, well, I have to work. I got to get them the perfect presents. I have to make sure I wrap the gifts and put the elf away on the shelf. And I got to make sure, and I stay up until all night and I don't get any sleep because I got to make sure everything is perfect. And then guess what happens? We get resentful. Because we are going above and beyond and it's not being received in the way that we want it to be. So now we're resentful because we're going above and beyond because of a story we're telling ourselves that we have to be so perfect to make everything so perfect. And then we show up and we're popping off because we're so triggered. We haven't got any sleep. Oh, they're not appreciating me. I stayed up all night to do this. And no one asked us to do that. You know what that's called? Victim mentality. That is called creating your own issues. What up, though, King Simon? Family's in the house. I love King Simon. Shout out to King Simon. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel, y'all. King Simon goes hard. Anyways, guys, we need to get out of the stories that we tell ourselves in our heads and stop creating victims of ourselves, because all the fluff at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. The fluff doesn't matter to your babies. You matter to your babies. The stuff doesn't matter to your babies. Your presence, your connection matters to them. And guys, I mean, think about it. We burn ourselves out, okay? Because we take on all of this. We take on all of that. We take it on. And we feel like we're the caregivers and everybody's leaning on us. So now, we're taking care of the husband. We're taking care of the children. We're going to work. Maybe we're taking care of our sick parents too. And now we don't have any time to take care of ourselves. We're burnt out because we're telling ourselves a story in our head that if we don't do this and if we don't do that, then everything is going to hit the fan and everything's just going to be bad. So we end up going above and beyond, pouring from empty cups, creating resentment, creating all of these negative emotions inside of our systems, creating inflammation, autoimmune disease, because we're pouring from empty cups, creating resentment, doing the most when we don't even really need to do the most. We don't even really need to do the most. I mean, really think about it. Think about that Christmas story for a second. And I know a lot of y'all have done this before. I'm staying up all night. I got to bake the cookies. I got to make sure that the milk is out for the Santa and it's drank with the little cookie crumbs and the carrots got to be bitten. And I got to make sure the presents are all there and it's in a perfect place. I mean, I got a best friend that literally goes so ham for Christmas. I'm like, girl, what? But think about it. So you stay up all night doing all the things. And now you have the most beautiful Christmas morning with the most beautiful presents. And then Santa came because he ate the cookies and the reindeer ate the carrot. But you're exhausted. You're snapping on people. You're not in the best mental state. Your family feels that. Even if you don't even say it, your family feels that, especially your babies. Kids are incredibly intuitive. They can feel everything. Because you thought that you needed to make the perfect Christmas and have everything in the perfect place instead of getting a full night's rest so you could show up presently for your family. We do this to ourselves, guys, especially women, and then we internalize it. We internalize it, and it creates resentment. And now we're mad at people, but we're secretly mad. We're not expressing it because we don't want to be a burden, but we're really just mad. 80% of autoimmune disease women have. 80%. Because we are always pouring from empty cups, not filling ourselves back up with anything, and having this secret resentment because we do everything for everybody and there is no return. That's how it feels for a lot of us women. That's a story we tell ourselves, guys. That's a story we tell ourselves. This is a lesson that I've recently learned. No, we need to take time for ourselves. I'm going to do an entire podcast on burnout because I was there. I was there. Oh my goodness, I was there. For a solid year, I was burnt the F out. Signs of burnout, you're always popping off. Everyone's always walking around on eggshells because they're scared if you're going to pop off. But it's because you're telling yourself a story. Well, I have to do this. I have to do this. If I don't do this, then everything's going to crumble. It's a story. It's just a story. We all got 5 minutes to give to ourselves. We all got 30 minutes to sit down and eat a meal. We all have a minute every hour to stand up, to breathe deeply. We all have these moments. We choose not to because the story says that we're too busy. The story says that if we take time for ourselves, then everything's going to hit the fan. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. And if you're that person, which I know a lot of us are, I was for a very long time. If you're that person, I challenge you. Take 5 minutes for yourself daily because you're going to break the habit of that cycle. Because what that cycle is going to do to you, it's going to kill you. It's going to make you sick. That cycle of doing for everybody. A lot of women do this. A lot of men too. Women, we got to realize, yes, it's our soft girl era. Okay? It's time for us to rise in our softness. And we can't rise in our softness if we're constantly exhausted because we're pouring from empty cups, serving everybody else but ourselves. Guys, too. I just see dad here. Yes, single fathers, dad, people. We all have moments during the day that we can take for us. We all have that. And we deserve that. Do you know how stressful this life is? I mean, shit. We're getting hit left and right daily by stress. The least we can do for ourselves is take a deep breath every hour consciously. Just a deep breath. Get one of those little timers. If you're in this situation and you're burnt out and you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling like the whole world is on your shoulders and you feel like you can't do anything except for everything else for everybody because it's your responsibility, I challenge you. Take 5 minutes for yourself. Set that timer every hour and take a deep breath for yourself. Sit down and eat a conscious meal with yourself. We all have that. We have that, guys. We have that. It's not our fault that we are the way that we are. It's our conditioning. It's our conditioning that the reason why we are the way we are. But guys, it's our responsibility to heal this part of ourselves so we can show up better for our children, for our significant others, for our parents, for our friends, for the planet, for the people, for the collective. We can't heal the collective if we're not trying to heal ourselves and we're just trying to heal everybody else. That's like if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else because you don't know what love is. We have to be whole within ourselves. We have to be pouring into ourselves. We have to pour from an overflow, not from empty. Because all of this pouring from empty creates inflammation in the system, creates dis-ease, and then we get sick. And then, guys, think about it. If the whole world is riding on your shoulders and you're taking care of your husband and your kids and your parents, then everybody. Well, what happens when your physical body gives out and you go down and you're not able to take care of anyone for any moment in time? Then what's going to happen? Because I know that you're telling yourself a story that, all of this is on you and everything's going to fall apart if it wasn't for you. Well, what happens when you fall apart? I don't think that everything around you is going to fall apart. I think that other people will step in and try to help that situation because that's usually what always happens, isn't it? I think so. So give yourself some time. Give yourself a moment. Yes, baby. Yes, Bree. Gotta slow down. We gotta slow down. It's time for all of us to slow down and connect. Yo, we're so distracted. We're so busy. We're so pulled in this direction and pulled in that direction that we don't even have times to be present with ourselves, to be present with each other, to be present with nature. Let me tell you something. I was burnt out. I was this person. That's why I'm speaking from it. That's why I'm like passionately speaking from it right now, because I was this person. I was burnt the F out. I was burnt out, man. It was a lot. It was a lot for me. I didn't give myself time. I didn't give myself space. All I did was take care of everybody else and build everybody else. And I never paid attention to my needs and what I wanted. This is my story. This is why I'm speaking from this, because I know. And I also know the flip side. I know the flip side of it. I know what happens when you take that 5 minutes. I know what happens when you set that alarm and you breathe every hour, because I was doing it. I know what happens when you start to pour in your own cup and you start to serve yourself. Man, you become a ball of light. You become a ball of love, peace, soft. I've become so soft since my burnout days, because I allow myself to sit down and eat a meal. You see how I came on here 30 minutes late tonight? Before, I'm like, oh no, I'm scheduled. No, I gotta eat. I gotta eat. Everybody can wait. I have to sit down and eat my meal. So I rescheduled the podcast for 30 minutes later because I come first now. I come first so I can pour from an overflow of a cup. Because if I didn't eat, guys, and I just jumped on here, I'll be sitting here hungry as hell, angry probably, trying to rush off here. I wouldn't have showed up in good energy for you guys. I wouldn't have showed up tip top. But because I took the time and space for me to eat, relax, fill my stomach, now I can be on point when I'm on here talking to you guys. I can come to you with good energy. But we can't do that if we're always just pouring and pouring our cups out to other people, serving other people, taking care of other people, and doing this for other people because we feel like everything is going to go down in flames if we don't. It's not. Trust me. Trust me. It's not going to go down in flames. It'll be all right, but you won't. So take the time for yourself. Take the time for yourself. I am going to do a podcast on burnout and how it affects you physically and how it messes up your hormones and how it messes up everything in your system. Because it does. It does. I'm rambling now. Okay, guys. Be present with your kids, man. Moral of the story, be present with your children. That is number one. That's all they want. Screw the things. Presence, connection, understanding. Keep your mouth shut when they want to express themselves so they can feel safe doing it. Build that connection, build that trust so that they will always come to you when there's issues. So they won't hide and be scared to tell you what they're going through. Be there to comfort them when they need it. Embrace them when they need it. I mean, a lot of kids, guys, are scared. I mean, I was. When I was getting sexually abused, I was scared to tell my parents. I was scared. And it wasn't the abuse that was the trauma. Think about this. It wasn't the abuse that was the trauma. It was the fear to express myself because I wasn't going to be safe expressing it. That's the trauma. Because I wasn't going to be received, understood, regulated. That's the trauma, not the act. You can get over the act if you have regulation waiting for you. But if you don't have that safety, that's the trauma. That's what gets stuck in your system. Not being able to regulate after something horrible happens to you. Not knowing what to do after something horrible happens to you. And keeping it and holding it inside of you until eventually it comes out in really inappropriate behaviors later in life. That's the trauma, guys. So you don't want to raise your kids like that. You want to provide that safe space for them at all times. So no matter what they go through, they're coming to you because you have that deep, deep connection with them, that deep sense of trust, that deep presence. That's what it's all about. I hope this helped. I hope this helped, guys. I really do, because our kids are our future. They're literally our future. And if we can learn to do better with our children, then they'll be the ones to usher in a better world. If we can learn to be better. Okay? I hope this helped. I love all of you. If no one told you today, and no one told you today, I love you just for existing. I love you just for existing. From the bottom of my heart, I do. Guys, visit my website, elisabethunlimited.com. Join my community. Join me on my tour. I have great big announcements coming really soon too. Amazing announcements coming soon. It'll be next week, early next week. So make sure y'all go to my website, Elisabeth Unlimited. Make sure you go to my community too. All the announcements will be there. Y'all gonna see me. Y'all gonna see me. I got some great news anyways. Life is good, guys. Life is good. And I love you all so, so much. All right. I'm rambling. Peace, peace, peace. Enjoy is this Friday or Saturday or Sunday? I don't even know. I'm going to go to bed and read a book. But I love y'all. I love y'all. Peace. Until next time. Until next time.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and don't necessarily reflect those of the producers or affiliates. We do not guarantee the accuracy of the content. Please verify information and seek professional advice when needed. By listening, you agree not to hold us liable for any actions taken based on this content. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you enjoy the episodes ahead. Love unlimited, feel unlimited.
Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, I invite you to stay on this journey with me. There is so much more ahead. Courses, mentoring, healing circles, retreats, safe spaces to heal and grow. Make sure you subscribe, follow, and stay connected. We are not alone. In this journey, we're on it together.